We didn't have much.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Smile and move on.
But when they lose their major operator, that ought to be a real heartburn.
It's shocking, actually.
Huh?
It's kind of shocking, actually.
All right, Twyla, the roll call?
Counselor Bowie is excused. Counselor Bickford?
Here.
Counselor Cody?
Here.
Counselor Pomelo?
Here.
Counselor Lunch?
Here.
Counselor Mason?
Here.
And Counselor LaRochelle?
Here.
All right, the first item of business.
Is under public hearings, Park Ordinance Amendment.
All right, we will open up the floor on that public hearing. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on the park ordinance amendment? Mr. Fillmore?
Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. At our last meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, but we said that we were allowing cross-country skiing and walking trails in the park, but we were not going to allow snowmobiles and ATVs.
We removed the language that would have changed anything about snowmobiles or ATVs, so there's no change on that.
So are they allowed in the park or are they not?
I believe currently the park rules don't allow them, but there's nothing in the ordinances that bans them. Am I correct on that, Steve?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, I'm, just don't understand how that we can discriminate between the walkers and the vehicles. If we have trails for the walkers, why can't we build trails for the ATVs? The park's big enough. Why can't we have all? It's supposed to be for all of the residents in the town to utilize. And if we're allowing certain trails and certain things, why can't we have that for the snowmobilers and the ATV people?
Thank you. But my understanding is that Mr. Arndt, who was the guy who was really responsible for creating the park, really wanted to be a quiet space for people to walk through the woods, and he felt, that was why he opposed snowmobilers and ATVs at the time. But I think that would be an issue for further discussing with like the commission there, the Conservation Commission that runs the park. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Verla, go ahead. Sure.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this. I'm Verla Brooks, the park ranger at Beaver Park. I've been here since 1983, and at that time, ATV snowmobiles had a run of the place. And the Conservation Commission and the Board of Selectmen at that time decided that we would allow the ATVs and the snowmobiles to cross the park property so they could access trails on the other side. That went quite well. They got used to that, and it wasn't an issue. The trail that one trail that they were allowed on was totally destroyed, and we would maintain it, but we only had to maintain that one trail. Then the Winter Park development went in, maybe 2004. At that now there are homes built on the trails where those people used to go through. We never allowed the ATVs and the snowmobiles to play in the park. They were only allowed to go through the park. So once the development went in, it closed off all the trails that they were trying to get to. And the ordinance that is on the books now had addressed that issue. Now that is no longer relevant. There is no need for the ATVs and the snowmobiles to pass through the park. They go down Cotton Road, they go down the old Muffet Trail, they access all the trails in Lewiston area, out by the Apple Valley, out that way. They don't need to go through Beaver Park. Therefore, it became irrelevant. And I had suggested that we change that ordinance to reflect that. Also, the town council adopted an ordinance a few years ago pertaining to ATVs, which allowed them access to certain trails and road crossings within the town. At that time, we did not want Beaver Park added to that, and it was not added to that. Things are working quite well now. It lessens the maintenance. The trails in wintertime are maintained. I groom them for cross-country skiing and for snowshoeing. They're not wide enough for snowmobiles. Snowmobiles would totally wipe that out. So there's no reason for them to cross the property, and that was the reason for changing the ordinance.
Thank you, Verla. Any further comments from the public on this issue? All right, we will close that public hearing, and we'll go to the next item.
Is the next public hearing the wellhead protection ordinance?
All right, I will open the public hearing on the wellhead protection ordinance. If anyone from the public here would like to speak on this issue, the podium is open. All right, anyone from the public? All right, seeing none, I will move to close that hearing. And the next item, Twyla?
Is under audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone at the podium and state your name and address for the audience here and at home.
All right, anyone from the public who would like to speak? The podium is right there.
I'm Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. At the last meeting, Mr. Eldridge stated that the 32,005 transaction was a legal transaction. However, I called the Secretary of State on the 12th of August, and they stated there was no record of any Atlantic commercial cleaners listed within the state of Maine as far back as 1993. So I don't understand how, one, that could be a legal transaction. He also stated that the funds were used to purchase equipment. I guess he means a sandblaster, which was used as walnut and baking soda to restore vehicles such as a Jeep. Okay, but I'm confused as to why he stated that this was a legal transaction when there is no Atlantic commercial cleaners listed within the state of Maine. Okay, and what equipment was purchased with this funds? I don't understand that. Do we have a response?
Are you able to respond to that, Steve?
That's prior to me coming here, but a business was formed, from my understanding, called Atlantic Cleaners. They put in an application, as far as I know, to borrow money from the town. A check was cut, and the finance director at that time signed the check. It didn't follow regular procedures. Usually, the procedures we have in place now, any loan process that gets approved by the loan committee, which this I don't believe was, and Chief Brooks is here, he has a lot more history about this case than I do. It did not come before the council or the Board of Selectmen, and the check was signed, and as far as the council or anybody knew, it was legitimate business. Whether they were signed with the Secretary of State, I don't know.
Okay, I knew that you weren't here when it happened. I knew that. Okay, I was just baffled as to how it could be, as you said your last meeting, that it was a legal transaction when there was no entity.
According to the Attorney General's office, there was no criminal intent that they could see, and the case was discontinued for investigation.
Okay, and that's dead issue now? Is it a dead issue?
No, that's, our counselor is in the process of putting together paperwork to go after the people, to collect the funding just like we would any other bad debt that we have.
Understood, but it's still in the process.
It's in the works, yes.
Okay, thank you. On 19 April, the council voted to commit funds to the fire chief to move a building. It wasn't on the agenda. He came here. He said to the council that it had to be done tonight in order to move this building or do whatever it was supposed to do. At the last meeting, the fire chief stated that FCI was going to build a new structure. We're in August. Nothing has been done. Why do we still have those funds committed? Why don't we turn them back into the general fund? If he wants to come back in with a proposal at that time, and we have an opportunity to review it instead of doing it right on the spot, so be it. Let's do it. But to have funds committed since 19 April and nothing's been done, I think is wrong.
Steve, do you want to speak to that? No. Okay.
Okay? Let's move on. I want to talk about 4 Campus Avenue. On 26 July 2010, the town sold the property that had a fair market value of $265,050 to the Housing Associates of Lisbon LP for $1. Well, according to the Secretary of State, the limited partnership of Housing Associates is John Hodge at the Brunswick Housing Authority and Lisbon School LLC. I never heard of that. So I asked him who Lisbon School LLC is. And according to them, it's John Hodge, Brunswick Housing Authority. So we sold this property that was valued at $265,000 for $1 to an individual, and I don't understand that. Okay, the second thing I don't understand about this is According to our current economic development director, there was a $1.4 million grant issued to the town for 4 Campus Avenue as part of the federal government's Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Where's the $1.4 million? Where did it go to? Who got it? I hope that we didn't give this money to an individual and not to an organization. The transfer of the property with the revenue form went to the Housing Associates of Lisbon LP, but we were told that it was given to or sold to the Brunswick Housing Authority. That's very confusing, seeing how that everything on the documentation lists John Hodge as the person of interest on that property. I don't understand how we do things like that. Does anybody want to comment on that?
John Hodge is the executive director for the Brunswick Housing Authority. We sold the building to the Brunswick Housing Authority for $1. A company was formed called the Lisbon Housing
School.
for Campus Street School. The $1.4 million that you're referencing, we never had that money in our bank account. That was a joint town with Bath, Brunswick, Lisbon, and Topsom. No, not Topsom. And the whole program was administered by the Economic Development Director in Bath. Originally, just to make it clear, the town of Lisbon had $640,000 available to us through this program for neighborhood stabilization. And we and other communities had other pots of money. What was left over, all the towns agreed to put this funding, which came to a total of approximately $1.4 million, towards this one big project. And just, you have an old school that had on the books a value of over $200,000. I doubt very much that you would ever be able to sell it, because we couldn't sell it. I know the town had tried
I know
to.
that the previous manager spent several years trying to sell that building and couldn't get rid of it at any price. There just wasn't a market there for buying old buildings like that without a lot of grant money to fix it up.
And the building was slowly deteriorating. It's on the historic register. It had value to the people here of Lisbon. The prior economic development director showed it probably to 5 or 6 different developers who do the very similar things as the Brunswick Housing Authority. But the Brunswick Housing Authority was the only one to step up to the plate and say that they would do something with this. And that's how it ended up. It's the LLC that you're referencing, as far as I know, is a arm of the Brunswick Housing Authority.
Mark, may I?
Yes, go ahead, Fran.
I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that since I've been on the council, this has been something that we went over we spent many nights, many hours, had many public hearings, very visiting sessions where people actually came in and spoke about the school and what they wanted done with it, what they actually wanted to see done with the facility. It's been very upfront, very open, but it's been going on for years. When I first got on the council, it was costing us just shy of just over $20,000 a year to keep that building wrapped up, and it was slowly falling apart. Through some process with the economic developer, we actually cut that down to about $10,000 a year to try to keep it maintained. But as you can see, and as Mark said, for several years, we were spending $20,000 a year to try to keep a building from falling down. We were very fortunate that we actually had this process come forward, so we actually could move forward with the building. And actually, they're going to do exactly what the town asked for it to be done to that building, is to maintain its structure, its look, its integrity, and actually be a vital part of Lisbon for the historic factors and for good use. So selling it for $1, I think, it seems very strange, but in the long run, it's only benefiting the town. And as of this year, it's going to be the first time that we actually collect dollars from that instead of actually paying out. So there's a lot of wind involved that wasn't done behind closed doors. There was no mysteries, no secrets, no hidden agendas, or however everybody wants to look at it. This is a very upfront. It's been going on for years, It was going on for several years before I got on the council, but I know it took the council quite some time to get the opportunity to move forward with what they did. But it was nothing was done behind the scenes. It was very public and out front, and I think that it's very up and up.
And I know the library looked at that building one time, trying to figure out if they could move in there, and after a structural analysis, they figured the floors wouldn't be able to hold up the weight of the bookshelves, so they had to stop looking at that as an option. So, it's an old building that requires a lot of renovation work to make it really usable. All right?
My only concern is that the fact that John Hodges' name appears all through this, except on the transfer main revenue form, and that is the Housing Associates of Lisbon. Okay? And if we sold it to the Brunswick Housing Authority, why aren't they listed as the property owners of the property? Now, the 1.4 million I got from your director down here. He gave me that information. So you might want to brief him on that isn't exactly right, because he was the one that provided that information to me, that the town only had 640,000 for that project.
That was initially what was granted through the NSP program. But once that program ended in April, of whatever year we got that funding, it was not a long-term project. And so instead of losing that funding, if it was not used, it would have gone back to the federal government, because it was Recovery Act funding. And so all the communities that were involved in that project felt that this project overall in Lisbon was a worthwhile investment and good for this project. So that's why all the towns had to agree. It wasn't just Lisbon being handed the money. It had to be agreed upon by all the parties involved.
So the 640,000 is in that project?
It's in that 1.4.
Okay.
There's a lot of asbestos removal that's very expensive that was done in there.
The last thing that I had is, where are the council working rules? At our last meeting, you approved a version of the rules that was impossible to comply with. Okay, stating that the rules were a work in progress. If there are working rules that are a work in progress, why aren't they on this agenda? Can anybody tell me what council working rules we're actually working under right now? Because I don't think there is a set been published that has been approved that we are supposed to be complying with, because I don't know where they are or what they are.
Yeah, we do have a version that we approved at the previous meeting, but we're still in work in progress, and we actually have some changes here based on suggestions at one point that you actually made, that we were trying to improve the next version here.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, but it isn't on this agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought it would have been on this agenda as an ongoing process so that we could follow up on it. I didn't see it there.
Yeah, usually we only have the summary on the back, which is not the full thing, and we'll get you a copy if you have any further questions about that.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Mr. Wells?
Ken Wells, Frost Hill Avenue. I have a question about the town vehicle that the fire department would like to buy, the truck. First, do town employees, can they take vehicles home?
Some people are allowed to take vehicles home, like our animal control officer. He takes his home because he works in 4 different communities, and he gets called out sometimes at different times of the day. So that is one vehicle that goes home. Our public works director at times takes home the vehicle depending upon what his schedule is, if he's not coming into the office and he's going someplace else.
Okay, I heard rumors that you were gonna do that away for this year.
I did away with everybody taking home personal vehicles, and except the animal control officer and the public works director, because that position changed a bit. He is taking his on occasion home, not every day.
Okay. My next question is, for the line item that the fire department would like to take the money out of, it's for refurbishment and equipment, new vehicle purchases, I guess it is. I'd just like to know, I see the fire chief's not here, but I kind of want to know how much was in there. And the last part, if somebody could just find out for me whenever they get a chance, is the next big ticket item, when is that due for purchasing?
All right, we can find that out. I know we do have a schedule of when we're planning to refurb. The next fire engine, I assume, would be the next big one.
Right, the next big ticket item.
I can get you a copy of their capital improvement plan, if you'd like.
Yeah, I just like to know, is how much, they wanted, what, 20,000 for a truck, and I heard that was kind of ridiculous, because I just bought a brand-new 2011 for 22,000, so.
They're going back to the drawing
Yeah,
board.
so I just wanted to know, how much money was in that account, and because usually their big-ticket items are pretty big.
Right, and I think they're a little behind where they should be because we haven't been able to afford to put all that money in there we would have liked to.
I'd just like to know that information.
I can get you that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Take the podium. Ms. Fitzgerald?
Dorothy Fitzgerald, resident of 6 School Street, Lisbon Falls. I've got a few items here. Pertaining to the fire truck, the truck that the fire department requested a few weeks ago, before Moxie Festival, the Public Works Department was in my area doing a lot of cleanup, mowing and things like that, and they had a pickup truck there that said Lisbon Fire Department on it, on the doors. And I'm thinking, how come? And one of the workers said, oh, Lisbon Fire Department gave it to us, free of charge. It had about 45,000 miles on it. A gift from Lisbon Fire Department to the Public Works Department. Well, congratulations to Public Works, because they rarely ever get a gift. And then here comes the Lisbon Fire Chief asking for a new, or a pickup truck, because they needed another pickup truck. So I'm questioning a gift of a pickup truck and then requesting to purchase another one. Who knows anything about that?
Could you enlighten us on what she's talking about there?
There was a Jeep that was taken out of service, that was used at the fire station for a number of errands and things when people were on staff there. That would not pass inspection, and we got rid of it. We bid it out, and somebody bought it for $500, I think. The fire department never replaced that vehicle. We had a vehicle that was scheduled to be replaced on the capital improvement process, and they had a vehicle that they wanted to get rid of that did not suit what they needed. And so we use that in the summertime mostly for hauling all of our tractors around for mowing and things like that. So that gets used pretty regularly during the summertime. But, so that's where we are.
I noticed it's used for the Public Works Department, uses it for mowing and things like that. So that's the story on that one. And you people were aware of that, evidently?
Mark? Yes, go ahead, Roger.
The truck that's in question was replaced with a Squad 3 truck. They bought the new ton Squad 3 truck. And the pickup truck that's in question was the one that they used as a Squad 3 truck, and that's the one that went to the Public Works.
Okay.
For the fire department to turn around and want to purchase another pickup truck when they had one, I don't understand it any more than you do, but this is what this was about. They should have slid that pickup truck into the use as a pickup and bought the Squad 3 instead of giving it to the Public Works, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, I guess I'm not the only one that was not quite. Going back to the revaluation, after the last meeting, boy, this microphone is awfully loud. We all complained about it until a member of the council decided that she couldn't hear the meeting on TV, and now we have wonderful reception, or whatever you want to call it. I requested from the town manager a list of the firms that the revaluation went out to and a copy of the bid proposal. It's no wonder that we received so few bids. In the proposal, it said, the proposal should include a 4 or 5 year time frame for completion of the project. The next paragraph, it is our tentative plan to receive and review proposals and submit a plan and budget to the council in August 2011, which was done. The acceptance of any proposal will be contingent upon approval by the council to continue the funding on a year-to-year budget approval. Is it any wonder you didn't receive many proposals? Anybody bidding on a job, a 4 or 5 year contract, and then wondering if they're going to get funded year to year? I can't believe that was even sent out. I made a lot of calls. One lady was a town manager in a small town here in Maine, not too far from Lisbon, and just a small town, and they needed a revaluation. So what they did was, as I said, it was a small town, and so the amount for the bid, anyway, for the revaluation was not anywhere near as large as that for Lisbon. But what they did was they got a 5-year loan from a local lending institution with a 1-year, no-interest drawdown. Now, I don't know why the town of Lisbon, the town council and town manager couldn't have thought a little bit outside the box and done something like this, have the revaluation done in 2 years instead of 4 years. I talked to one excellent firm, they've been around for a long time, highly respected, and they didn't even bother to respond to the bid proposal because they said that they got involved a few years ago with a 4-year revaluation, and in a 4-year time, things changed so much that it just didn't make sense. He said that they got into trouble doing it because everything changed so much. He said that a 4-year revaluation just does not make sense. I'd like to know why it was done this way, and shouldn't it have been done a little bit differently?
Yes, Fern, if you'd like to respond.
And I wish it could have been done that way, Dot. The first project I had when I became council with Jerry was to try to inform the people of Lisbon that we needed a revaluation. Jerry was very much on board with it because he knew a lot of our data was very outdated. We tried to educate the people. I did the best we could to actually inform people what we needed to do, where we were, and if we didn't do it, the state probably would do it for us. And that was one of Jerry's concerns at the time, would be forced to do it. That was one of many attempts that we had previous to me getting here, and I know Mark and his dad tried many times before, and there was no town support for it. It actually was voted down. The last 4 years since then, we've been trying to find ways of doing it. Since then, we've gone back to town one other time, and it was voted down. Just going through this last round of budgets, I actually was a very strong component of actually bonding money or borrowing money to make a bond, to make the evaluation just a one-shot deal. Didn't make no difference how we did it. My concern was that we tried to do it as one package. And Steve actually looked out for funding. He actually found funding as far as for the idea of borrowing money, and it wasn't a bond. It was actually borrowing money for the revaluation. It was actually talked amongst the councilors, and it was when we started going to one of our last public hearings for our budget, it was discussed that even as a council, there was not enough support for us to borrow money in any regards, bond or loan, to actually do a revaluation. And one of the biggest reasons for that is to borrow any sum of money, whether it's a bond or borrowing, we still have to go to town to vote for it. And most likely, we felt there wasn't support to do it, and instead of actually pushing it on for another year, the only process we had to do was actually to do a long-term, smaller amount per year to try to get it moving forward. We actually had to, in good faith, let them know that there's no guarantee next year, because there may be a different council, there may be a different mood, we may just not have the money, and if the money's not there next year, we couldn't guarantee to pay someone something that we can't guarantee the money's gonna be there. So it was only in our best interest to inform them in the bid process that there's no guarantee. This can be a year-to-year bidding process, not year-to-year bidding, year-to-year funding. I'm not sure how else you would do it. I mean, we tried to go to the community. The community really wasn't in support for a one-time big dollar revaluation. We looked at other financing. That really didn't seem like it was moving forward. So the only way as a council we felt that we can move forward with is the process that we did. And unfortunately, we can't guarantee funds that haven't been approved yet for next year. So, I mean, I think we had to write that into the bid process because it's the way it is.
The only proposal that I can recall was bonding the money out, which does not make sense, paying for something with interest over a long period of time, 10 to 20 years. But if that had been brought to the public, say a 4 or 5 year loan, I have a feeling, I can't see why the public would not have agreed to something like that. In another vein, kind of, but another way, along the same lines, I really would like to see the town council vote and do a cost management survey. Hire somebody to do a cost management survey that would look into every town department and see where there is money that could be saved. I think it would be a very wise investment for the town, and I really, really would like to see the town council and the town manager move forward with a management cost survey.
Thank you, Dot. I think it's a good suggestion. We'll definitely have to try to see if we can fit that in next year's budget. 'Cause
Thank you.
I agree with your idea. Mr. Fillmore, go ahead.
Fern, has you guys approved the revaluation to Mr. Van Tynen in the last meeting? Has he signed the contract for that? And if so, was this funding that Fern said that there's no guarantee for 4 years, was that a part of the contract that Mr. Van Tynen is going to accept? Because if the contract reads that we've got to pay it for 4 years, that just blows your theory right out of the water.
I think it's a bidding process, and even in the past, I mean, it's when he spoke on many different occasions, he is well aware of the idea that it's going to be a year-to-year funding process. There's nothing written that I would know of any contract besides the bid process that we can't guarantee funds that we don't have.
I understand that, Fern. I'm just saying,
The contract has not been signed,
okay,
and the contract is under review by our attorney. And when he's done with it, the council will see the contract. And as long as legal counsel says it's fine, and I'm sure there's no guarantee of funding for the following year in that contract, we'll sign it.
okay. I'm just saying that, there's a difference between signing a contract that says we're obligated for 4 years and Fern saying it's a year-to-year, which is fine with me, as long as we're going that route. But we want to make sure that the contract that's signed reads that way.
And my understanding is that he put in a bid just like everyone else, so it should be on the same terms as other people. Anyone else from the public have any comments they'd like to make? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item.
It's under consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed for discussion? I'd like to just make one note that the July 5th minutes were approved at the last meeting. So order 2011-151 to approve the minutes of July 26 and August 2.
I'll make that motion that we accept those.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? And opposed?
Order passed, 6-0.
And the next item?
Is under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2011-152, park ordinance amendment, second reading, roll call vote.
All right, do we have any further discussion from council on park ordinance reading?
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
Second it.
All right, anything else to discuss on that? All right, then we'll move to a roll call vote.
Counselor Bickford,
Yes.
Counselor Cody,
Nay.
Counselor La Rochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Mason,
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo,
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 nay, order passed.
All right, next item.
Order 2011-153, the wellhead protection ordinance, second reading, roll call vote.
Any further discussion from council?
I'd like to make a motion to pass this one,
And
without a doubt.
I'd like to second this one.
Okay. And one last time for the public, any further comments? All right, I think we had enough time to chew this over, so hopefully we're all set on that. All right, we'll move to a roll call vote then.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
And Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
6-0, order passed.
And the next item?
Order 2011-154, Chapter 46, Article 5, Section 46-134, Access Management. First reading, roll call vote.
This was an ordinance that the MDOT funded a study through AvCog to look at access management on some of the state aid roads. We've been working on that for several years and kind of put it on the back burner as we went through a lot of other ordinances. It's basically an ordinance to try to control access points on the busy highways for safety reasons. It went through the planning board process. There's quite a bit of discussion. Some changes were made. It's before you to approve to move forward or not. Ask any questions. The ex-chair of the planning board is here tonight to answer any questions for you.
Okay. John, do you have anything you'd like to say just to introduce this?
John Poppin, ex-planning board chairman. This ordinance came before us basically to improve traffic flow on Route 196. Anybody that travels back and forth on 196 remembers what it was like before they put the center lane in and people turning in and all that. AvCog, Joan Walton came before us and explained basic traffic flow and keeping things moving along, and that with that as a corridor and a state road, we want to keep traffic moving as much as possible and limit curb cuts into 196. Also included in that ordinance is Route 9 and is it 125, I believe, which is Main Street, north of, I want to say Houston Street is where we started it back in on there. We kind of removed the village zone from that.
And I believe also Mill Street and Upland Road are in the ordinance here.
Yes. And it's basically just to keep traffic moving and keep things safe. If you look through the ordinance, you'll see there's sightline distances, minimum setbacks from between driveways and things like that. And it's just basically to keep traffic moving, keep things safe, and give the code enforcement officer something to work with as far as where roads are getting cut in or where driveways go in, and to encourage driveway sharing and things like that.
Because right now, we really don't have much in that, nothing at all.
We do
Okay.
not.
Yes, go ahead, Fern.
I was able to sit in a few of these meetings, which are pretty interesting. One of the things about it, there is a lot of guidelines, but a lot of them are moving forward. Pretty much everything's there already is grandfathered, if I believe right.
That is true.
So it's just moving forward for new business, and I know Steve has mentioned in the past that some new businesses coming in, it would be nice to have something to fall back on to actually set it in motion. So I think it's good as any ordinance. It's something that we adapted to our town from pretty much a state ordinance. It's nothing
Right.
that we wrote
That is
out of
true.
the blue. So it's pretty much a known ordinance has been kind of adapted to our town, and as any ordinance, if it doesn't work, then we have the opportunity to
Amend.
modify it as we go, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about putting in the outer Main Street and Ridge Road, Upland Road. I mean, I'm not really sure that the need is there as much as it is on 196 for having a lot of driveway regulation there.
The Upland Road, and I believe it's Mill Street, is included in that.
Yes.
And the reason for that was the school. A big part of that is you're going to see that people want to move in next to schools and things like that, and a lot of Mill Street is not developed. And that was the rationale behind those streets. And 125 north of Houston Street, we tried to keep, I mean, you're pretty urban compact up to that point. So we tried to make it work for what we have in town already.
Yes,
I
go ahead, Fern.
I believe all but Mill Street were state roads, right? The 196,
Yes.
Route 9, 125, and Upland Road still state roads?
State roads or state aid roads, yes,
State roads, yeah. And just Mill Street was the only one that was added that wasn't, I believe.
correct. And that was because of the school.
Did the state ask you specifically to include all the state aid roads and the state roads?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
recommended by AvCog.
Okay.
Joan Walton, the transportation planner who helped put this together, will be if this moves on to a public hearing, she'll be at that meeting to answer questions and She has quite a good background in this.
Yes.
Do you have any further questions or comments from council? All right, anyone from the public have any questions or any comments? Okay, I know. All right, nothing further from council? All right, we'll move to a vote on that then.
I would make a motion that we accept it so we can bring it forward as a public hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, we need to go roll call vote.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Palmella?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
6-0. Order passed.
All right, we'll bring that back for a public hearing at our next meeting. If you have any questions or concerns then, you can bring that up. We can get that on the website so people can take a look at that. All right, next item, Twyla?
Order 2011-155, the Maine Association of Police Union contract.
This is a contract that we've been, talking about and trying to, one clause, get adjusted that would satisfy both parties. Roger, our attorney, is here tonight to go over that.
Okay, Mr. Terrio, if you'd like to enlighten us on what's going on there.
Happy to, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Most of these are items that we had discussed previously and that we had agreed to. There was one item that was hanging us up, and that was the clause that related to the payment of accumulated sick leave upon discharge. We've resolved that, I believe. So I'll go through these just quickly to refresh our recollections. It's been a while since we looked at this. This is a 2-year contract that expires June 30th, 2013. It contains a 1.75 increase, which is consistent with the rest of the employees for year 1. And wages for year 2 are subject to a wage reopener, which simply means we sit down and talk only about wages. We have a clause that allows us to go to a biweekly payroll accounting system, which is in process, as I understand. We've agreed to increase the detective stipend for weekend work. Prior to this time, prior to last year, there were 3 detectives doing it, and we paid them a 4-hour stipend. Now there are only 2, so that they're caused to be away from their families and on call for a longer period of time. So as long as there are only 2, it will be a 6-hour stipend. If we go back to 3, then it will revert back to a 4-hour. We've added the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday. Again, that's consistent with our other union contracts. The health insurance clause allows us to move to the Ultra Care benefit program. There's also language there that allows us to go to other equivalent coverage subject to their review and approval that it is in fact equivalent, which is not to be unreasonably withheld. The language that we were hung up on was what happens to folks who are on workers' comp and can't perform. And as you know, we had a grievance with respect to that situation. And what we agreed to do to resolve that, we were told that there were certain instances or possibilities where if someone resigned while they were on comp and light duty, it could affect their comp benefits. So what we have done is created an exception for that, so that if they can't resign, then we need to terminate them because obviously they don't have work capacity. Then they would not be disqualified from the benefit, but only under those circumstances. And as I said, it's a 2-year contract, so that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions from council on that? All right, I think we're set there. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion that we accept the contract as discussed.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? And opposed?
Order passed, 6-0.
And the next item?
Order 2011-156, fuel bids.
One more time, this was our 3rd attempt at putting out fuel bids for the upcoming budget. We sent out 14 requests. We got 2. You have the documents in front of you. One was from Down East Energy. Their bid for number 2 heating fuel was 3.365 cents per gallon. K1 was 3.695. diesel was 3.555, and propane was 3.449. Hertz Oil was the only other company that bid. They gave us two options, one being that we would have a fixed price of, with 10 installments if we paid on a 10 different times. Their price on a number two heating fuel was 3.3365. K1 was 3.889. They did not bid on diesel, and they did not bid on propane. Their second option was, once they deliver the fuel, we would pay within 14 days, and the price on number two heating fuel was 3.3765, and the K1 was 3.889. That's where we stand. We have historically used Down East Energy, and one of the reasons is they are able to supply us with all that we requested, and they also are a local company. We used to have an office here, so.
Any questions or comments from council on that?
Does this, the only companies that bid on this are the only two that are actually interested? Is that what happened?
Yep.
So in other words, everybody got the bid?
Oh, we sent it to
And,
14 different companies.
Okay.
Any reason why most of them wouldn't bother to bid?
The price on, everybody knows, it's a very volatile market right now for heating fuel, and it changes and on a regular basis, so. Actually, when we put this out for the second time, this bid came in actually less money than before, so we put it out to bid at a little bit better time, so.
And just for clarification, this is being kept open so that the school department can do the joint bid
This
with
is-
us for better pricing.
This is part with the school, even though they don't have as much in your paperwork, you can see what the school would be using, but they will follow suit with the town, I was told today. If the council votes to approve whoever, they will follow suit with us.
It'd be my recommendation that we go with Down East Energies for the prices that are quoted.
So moved.
All right, any other discussion from council on that? All right, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the Down East Energy proposal? And opposed?
Order passed, 6-0.
All right, next item?
Other business, Finance Director's report.
Hello. We're a little light on the report this month. At this point, there really isn't a lot of information here available for you. I hope to have the budgeted numbers updated in Trio before next month's report. But within the finance department, we've been busy wrapping up with year-end audit work with the auditors. Per the auditors, this year's audit has gone extremely well, and they are pleased with what they're seeing, which is right in line with last year, if not better, so that's looking well. Pending any follow-up items with them, we should be looking to prepare draft financial statements soon. Given the duration of the year-end work, we are still in the process of entering what has come in for this fiscal year to date. So your reports are kind of light, but the revenue items that are not included in your report are revenue sharing, which came in at $115,000 for the month, and homestead exemption installment of $83,000. So those two will need to be added into your reports, and you'll see them on a year-to-date basis for next month. Looking at your report, solid waste is off to a great start, as is the rec department and Beaver Park. And that's really all I have in regards to these reports, unless you have any specific questions for me. I mean, it's the first month of the year, so it's kind of hard to do projections.
Do you have any questions from the council?
No, just a statement, the public works, the public works, the transfer station said the steel had gone up considerably, and it was looking at kind of exciting. I dropped off a couple appliances this week, and they seem to be pretty excited about it.
Hopefully it's a good sign for manufacturing, that there's some demand for
The steel
the
has
steel, right?
gone up considerably.
It's good to hear. Anything else from anyone? All right.
The only other thing I would like to add is with the tax collector, she's very busy right now. Courtesy letters on last year's taxes are being mailed out tomorrow. Tax bills, hopefully for this year's taxes, will be mailed out by the end of the month. 30-day lien notices on last year's taxes will be mailed on September 18th, and foreclosures will begin on October 18th. So I just ask that people keep these dates in mind as they receive these items in the mail, as it may be confusing to receive a tax bill 1 week and a potential 30-day lien notice within 2 weeks. Keep in mind what tax year you're looking at, and we'll hopefully be able to clearly state on there. But if you, again, have any questions, you can stop in and see Kathleen, and she will be more than happy to help you.
So if you get a tax lien, it's for last year's
For
bill,
last
right? Not
year's.
the one you just got. Okay.
Exactly. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Twyla?
Is the town manager's report.
Despite the request to keep our broadcast for our meetings on Thursday nights, Great Falls TV changed it so the general public who is watching our meetings, you'll have to tune in on Fridays, because that's the date that they chose to broadcast. So pay attention. We'll put it on our website and also on the sign, so until people are used to taking their Friday nights and watching our great meetings.
Good time to use your DVR and record it, watch it on a better night.
I wanted to just update the council on the decorative streetlights. The ones we have are in pretty rough shape. Some of them aren't working. We've been talking to CMP probably for the last year about what our options were. We are putting out requests for getting all the posts painted. They're still fine. They just need to be cleaned up and repainted. The lamp head, according to CMP, is not available anymore, the Town and Country, from them. So their recommendation was to put the one that you have in front of you, which is called the Granville. If anybody has any objections to that, please voice those to me or to Ryan before we start outfitting them.
We looked into LEDs at all for that?
Expensive.
Expensive, yeah. Like how much, any idea?
Yeah, it's quite a bit of money
Okay,
to
yeah.
update
Yeah.
those, and that we don't have.
Yeah.
Scott Kelly and Wright Pierce, they came in the meeting to us to talk about their plans. They will be coming before the planning board just to give an introduction to what they're planning on doing with the Dragon Pit site. It's pretty exciting what they have in mind. And I'm trying to, once that's done, I'll try to see if I can get Scott and his engineer to come before the public, so, one of your meetings, so they can explain what they're doing, so the public gets a chance to see it. And we've had a lot of complaints about Route 196 down here on Village Street intersection, and we're gonna be trying to do some work down there to clean it up as much as we can without spending much money. That's all I have.
All right, the next item, Twyla?
Is under appointments, Order 2011-157, Board of Appeals, 1 regular member. It's a reappointment for a 3-year term.
Okay. Okay, and that's Janet Tuttle being reappointed to, is that the Appeals Board?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion on that?
I'll make that motion that she be reappointed.
I'll second it. Okay, any discussion from council? All right, all those in favor, or do we have, sorry, I need a motion first. Anyone, okay, sorry, you did make a
I
motion,
made
wow.
one.
I'm out of it, all right. So all those in favor of reappointing her? And opposed?
Order passed, 6-0.
Sorry about that. All right, the next item?
Is Council of Communications.
All right, anyone have anything they would like to bring to our attention?
Just have a quick question about the
Lori?
streetlights. I think it's an extension of what the town manager was reporting with these Granville Premier, but for clarification purposes, the streetlights, are they being extended up the main street in Lisbon Falls?
Just 2 lights are being added there, one by the library, and we're connecting that to another street light right up by Bono's Sausage Kitchen. And we're gonna put in a new sidewalk there, asphalt. So all the underground wiring has been run, and we're just waiting to get those installed.
Is any consideration given to going a little bit further up, because there's some other
Yeah,
businesses
we
that are
have to
there?
find the funding for that, but it is something that I know Scott and Gina have talked about, and we've actually had an engineer from AvCog, Jennifer Williams, who's a PE, who has done lighting, and she's kind of laid out a whole plan at requests of some of the economic development people, of extending the lights up around School Street and and then up one side, one of the streets there to where the Campus Commons is. And we've also talked extending them, I think, up 196 to the high school and then to that area.
So that's something that she's going to prepare a plan for?
She's
and
putting
then-
together, yeah, she gave us a rough draft right now, but there'll be more. But we have to find the funding for that.
Is there any grant money that might be available through some of the downtown community revitalization?
It would be part of
plans?
what, if Scott ever applied for, or we ever applied for a downtown revitalization grant, that would be part of that.
I know the library was a little concerned when they were out there digging up the street, so, you know, they weren't really sure what was going on there, so we need to, again, make sure we have good communication there and that they're aware of it before it happens. All right, Roger, you had a comment?
Yeah, I've got a couple things that I've got to bring up. One of them was, a gentleman approached me and was very, very dissatisfied that there was an intersection in front of his home and the street light has been removed. They settled on what street lights are gonna be there, or are they gonna be still in the works? And if he has a complaint, I told him to come to see you, Steve.
Yep, that's the person to see,
And
Ryan or
then-
myself.
Right, and he was very upset. He said the street light had been there ever since he can remember. There's a lot of people that go out there, walk their pets, they walk in the evening, and with that street light gone, it was a real nuisance to him to have it being removed, so I told him to see you, so you'll probably be getting a call from that.
I've had several calls, not too many.
Another thing I've got to ask a question about is, I have had quite a few people approach me. There was a article in the newspaper here a week or two ago about the working rules for the council. And some of the people were very, very upset that, you know, we stand and pledge the flag and you know, justice for all and the whole thing, and then we turn around and shut the public down, they feel. And they're very upset about it, and they found it to be hypocritical, if anything. They felt that any time that you shut the people off to the community in any way, shape, or manner, they are very, very upset about that. And it's not one or two people, I've heard this from a lot of different people. They said that we've taken oaths to uphold the Constitution of this country, and we do the pledge every week, and to stop being so hypocritical and start looking out for our people. So I told them that I'd bring this to the attention of the council, and personally, I think that anything that eliminates any people, anytime, to address anything to the council is wrong, and it's not gonna fare well for the council. That's it.
Thank you, Roger. Anyone else have anything to add?
Excited with the, going back on the same note, and hopefully the people, hopefully, Roger, you're informing them very well that we're not restricting their rights of speech at all, that it's still the same as it always been in a sense. I don't think tonight anybody was restricted from speaking at all at any point of the meeting, and I feel that's the way it's going to continue. If not, it's the way that we intended it to be, and we never ever drew any lines in the sand where we're saying people weren't communicating. I've had two people approach me and speak to me about the working rules, and both of them saying that we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we move forward and get stuff done in the town. They're sick of just listening, and nothing happening. So, I mean, there's a lot of people who have different opinions out there. I strongly believe that we can't refrain anybody from speaking, but we want to make sure that we can do it in a way that's going to produce some movement on us to try to get stuff done. So, I mean, I think hopefully people are informed, and if people do have a big concern, hopefully you do address them, have them address Steve, because I think that's something Steve needs to hear about, and also our chair, if there's a big concern. As myself, I've only heard it from a couple people, and, you know, they were kind of moving forward in a way of what we need to do to get things done. I just want to fall back a little bit on the fire department vehicle. Chief did actually come forward and actually requested for a vehicle. Myself, and I spoke to other councilors that really don't feel that, it was done unjustly. I think there is a need. I think that we are working with the fire department to make sure that we are gonna support them and give them, help them with their needs and make sure that everything's fulfilled. So, I know Chief was actually came forward and he had a concern. And speaking to the members of the fire department, there is a legit concern of something that they need. How we address that, I think, is gonna be, I think we'll move forward and we'll handle it in a proper way. But I think there is a need. It's just the idea of us being more informed so we make a better decision. And I think everybody's aware of that. So as we move forward, I think that will be good, so.
Thank you.
I have something.
Go ahead, Gina.
There may be some here, and I know there are many in the community that have enjoyed the Concert in the Park series. Ross Cunningham, along with very few volunteers, puts that on every summer. And Ross has been very good with having other events, the Very Merry Main Street that is at Christmas time, the Harvest Festival, and the Valentine's Father-Daughter Banquet. And that handful of volunteers is kind of running thin. They need help, they need people to come. Even if you can only be there for an hour or so, it's very helpful to them. I can't always make every event myself, but there are some events that I do make and some that I don't. So Ross has done a great job, and the people that have gone to the concerts say they're very good. I've never been able to attend one myself, but if there are people out there, any in the audience or in TV land, that are willing to volunteer, Ross could certainly use your help, and you can get a hold of him by calling the town office and speaking to Twyla or Steve. Or Scott, certainly. So that's a need, and to expand those kinds of programs, we need volunteers, so.
And I think that is a very good program that does help make people have a better image of our town. You know, when you see a sign for that in Topsom, then you see, you know, okay, there's something good going on in Lisbon, and I think that's a nice positive that we really need here.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have anything? All right, then. We will move to the next item, which is,
Did you need an executive session?
no, we did not.
All right, so the next is
Adjourn.
order 2011-159 to adjourn. To
I'd make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of adjourning? And opposed?
6-0.
All right.
Let's take a quick break and we'll discuss a few things in the work.